The removal of alignment has caused basically some big changes to occur within the remaster and the addition of a new damage type called spirit damage, as well as some other things like sanctified, sanctification, holy and unholy, as well as a little bit into the vitality and void side. But we are going to deal with spirit damage, sanctification, and holy and holy and try to explain what those things are. So, my name is Don. I'm trying to be the sly strategist, and let's go ahead and get into it. So, with spirit damage, holy and unholy, and sanctification, it's almost like a chicken and the egg type thing as to which one you want to talk about first. But I'm going to break it down into this. We're going to go over spirit damage, then the holy and unholy trait, then get into sanctification. So, let's go ahead and give spirit damage a start. So, spirit damage. Spirit damage is a new damage type, and let's just go ahead and since it's not a very big section, let's just read it really quick. So, spirit damage, it directly affecting the spiritual essence of a creature. Spirit damage can damage a target projecting its consciousness or possessing another creature, even if the target's body is elsewhere. The possessed creature isn't harmed by the blast. Spirit damage doesn't harm creatures that have no spirit, such as constructs, and many effects that deal spirit damage also have the sanctified, holy, or unholy trait, all of which are described in the sidebar on page 36, and this is of player core, and in the glossary on page 456 and 462. Now, we will cover that a little bit, but let's break this down just a little bit and talk about it. So, the damage that this particular type of damage, spirit damage, does is to the spirit. And when they say it doesn't harm creatures that have no spirit, such as constructs, once again, you're thinking exactly that. It is going to be things that don't have any spirit whatsoever. And in that case, you can think of things like an animated statue or something along those lines. Now, if you are doing this type of damage and you are sanctified, and because of the deity that you've chosen, you are holy or unholy, you can then add that damage on top if the opposing creature also holds the opposing trait. So let's talk a little bit about those traits and go into holy and unholy traits. So these traits are generally replacing the good and evil side of the alignment removal in classes, feats, and spells, and it is couched as a battle between celestials and fiends, holy and unholy. These traits mark something like your character or a spell that belongs to one side of the battle between celestials and fiends. Generally, fiends and undead are susceptible to holy abilities and celestials to unholy ones. And a good example of this would be the cleric feat, Divine Castigation. Now, if you look at the prerequisite, it says holy or unholy trait. And it's described as your deity's grace doesn't extend to your sworn enemies. When you cast a harm or a heal spell, you can add your holy or unholy trait to it. If you do, the spell deals damage to creatures with the opposing trait, even if it wouldn't normally damage them. This spell deals spirit damage when used this way. For example, if you are holy, you can add the holy trait to a heal spell and deal spirit damage to a fiend that has the unholy trait. Now, how do you, as a cleric or a champion, and that was clarified in the errata that a champion can be sanctified. So, if you're a cleric or a champion, well, how do you get the holy or unholy trait? You have to be sanctified by your deity. So, if you are holy or unholy, your sanctified actions and spells gain the same trait, meaning that they also gain the holy or unholy trait if it is part of spirit damage. So, how does sanctification happen? Well, the first thing to keep in mind is that only certain deities will allow sanctification. Some are a must and some are a can. So, for example, Rovagug is a must for unholy. Then you have someone like Desna who is a can, but only for holy. And then you might have a deity like Gazra who actually has no sanctification whatsoever, and you cannot sanctify. So your choice of deity is largely going to determine whether you are going to be able to use the holy or unholy trait and what one you can use. So when you choose to play a cleric or a champion, and they talk about this in Player Core 1, it will be in Player Core 2, but remember, it was in the errata as well. this comes into effect, but you choose the god you worship, and that god is going to have some manner of sanctification listed in their write-up. And you can see in the devotee benefits, the divine sanctification will tell you can, must, you can choose either or none. And those will be your options, and that it'll be written up in the deity section of Player Core. So when you do become sanctified, once again, if you are using something that does spirit damage, well, then you can give the spells these traits, either holy or unholy, if you are sanctified. And they will work and do extra damage or a different type of damage to creatures of the opposing trait. Now, we'll go ahead and bring up the sanctification process graphic right here. And one thing to note is that the holy trait indicates a powerful devotion to altruism, helping others, battling against unholy forces like fiends and undead. Unholy trait shows devotion to victimizing others, inflicting harm, and battling the celestial powers. And you will have the must, you will have the may, you will have none, depending on which deity you choose. And being sanctified does give you some powerful traits to use against enemies that have an opposing trait. But then you have to remember that if you are sanctified, you hold that trait. So let's say if you decide to sanctify to Desna and you have the holy trait, anything that is devoted to Rovagug and is sanctified to Rovagug will do that same type of damage to you. So there is kind of two sides to it. Now, I do hope this little video on spirit damage, sanctification, and holy and unholy did help you out a little bit. Like I said, it's a little chicken and the egg as to which one to cover first or how to do it. But I do hope that this little explanation kind of helped you out, maybe demystified a little bit. But if you did like the video, please feel free to like, subscribe, or hit that notification bell. But whatever you do, I hope you have a great day and happy adventuring. Thanks.